Steve Gadd on the drums. Steve Gadd.
Hello, Steve.
Hi, how you doing?
We want to welcome our special guest, Steve Gadd, my neighbor up the road in Arizona. How long you lived in Arizona now?
Oh, about 14 years.
You like it here?
Um, last I like it, but last summer was the first summer that I was really here because normally I'm on the road in the summertime, and it was rough. It was a hot one last summer.
Oh yeah, man, really hot.
But we got a pool, and I just stayed in the water a lot of the time.
Hey, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Why did you move to Arizona?
There was some work out here that I thought was going to involve myself and my older son Duke, who's a musician and drummer. And after we moved out here, it didn't work out, but got us out of the cold weather though.
So you stayed.
Yeah, my wife loves. We were from living in Rochester, New York, and it's cold, long, cold, dark winters. And
Yeah.
my wife loves warm weather.
Is she from the East Coast as well?
Yes, she is. She was actually born in Chicago and then brought up in New York City, the Bronx, Brooklyn. She lived all over the Manhattan area.
Wow. Now, speaking of growing up on the East Coast, let's look at something here.
That was great, Steve. Thank you, Cubby. You go into your dance and I'll back you up. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Long
12
time.
years old, 12 years old on the Mickey Mouse Club, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you get to meet Annette Funicello?
I did. I met her and Darlene and Cubby and Karen, and I met all of them. It was exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you must have watched the Mickey Mouse Club on TV when you were a kid, right?
Yeah, I did, and I met Walt Disney. I got his autograph. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
What was Walt like?
I didn't really get to know him that well. It was like it was during actually it was during a filming, and he had shown up on the set, and very quietly I went over to him, and so we really didn't have a lot to say because they were shooting, some of the scenes from Mickey Mouse Club. So
So, when I was a kid, you're a little bit older than me. I watched the Howdy Doody show, and
I did.
my mom got me to New York, and I sat in in the peanut gallery of the Howdy Doody show, and that like totally blew my mind because you watch it on TV, and then suddenly you're there. What was that like for you? You grow up in Rochester, New York. You played the drums, you tap dance. Suddenly you win a talent contest. There you are in Hollywood. That must have blown your mind.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, um, exciting. When I went out there, there was another a friend of mine, Billy Fideli, and his partner, Carol Ann Myrie. They were tap dancers, and they also made the trip out there. So we were with other people from Rochester, And my mom flew out with me and my brother, and we stayed at the Disneyland Motel,
Wow.
and and then and then we stayed at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel too. It was like it was a pretty amazing, time. Pretty exciting.
Did you think that you were going to get into show business yourself by that point? Because you're already a pretty good drummer.
Yeah, I don't, I guess I always had it in the back of my mind that it would be great to be able to support myself playing music. Um, you know, because I love playing the drums, and I wasn't really academic, so I wasn't a great student, and the drums I always felt comfortable with, and I always, gravitated towards the drums and music, and just followed my heart, and ended up on my feet.
Now, when you were a kid, you had a mentor who guided you in the beginning. Tell us about your uncle and his influence on you when you were a young man.
Yeah, well, he was my dad's older brother, and we lived. He was in the military when I was born, and my dad and my mom, my brother and I lived with my dad's parents, and also my uncle Ed was there when he got out of the military, and he had been a drummer in high school and saw that I was banging on everything all over the house, so he got me a pair of sticks and a little round piece of wood practice pad, and showed me how to hold the sticks, and I'd play along with John Philip Sousa march records. And then at night when everybody was home from work, my uncle would get a pair of sticks and a little pad, and we'd both play, and along with the records, and while my mom and dad, my brother, my grandparents, they were in the parlor listening. So it was like a nice hang. It was before TV, and the Howdy Doody show was the first show I ever saw on TV. The next door neighbor uh, to my grandmother, his name was Billy Putnam. He lived upstairs, and there was a double house next to my grandparents, and he and his mom and family lived upstairs. And they had a TV. That's the first TV I ever saw, and they had a round screen. And the first show I ever saw was Howdy Doody. And it came on later in the afternoon. I think that, that was when TV first started. So that might have been one of the first shows, on TV. You know what I mean? Ever.
Do you remember Ding Dong School with Miss Francis?
Oh, yeah. Ding Dong School, Captain Kangaroo.
Captain Kangaroo, Rudy Kazootie.
Rudy Kazootie, yeah. The
Yeah.
magic television screen, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my Rudy Kazootie, and was there a guy, Flicka? Was there another guy named Flicka that showed movies?
I don't know. That might have been a local show. You were in Rochester. I was in Hartford. I don't know. Do you
Yeah.
remember Winky Dink and You?
Oh, yeah, Winky Dink, sure.
Where you put the plastic on the screen and you drew on the screen?
Yeah, to learn the secret. Every week they put a different mark on, and you'd have to put it on the magic screen. And oh yeah, we were into all of that stuff.
Yeah. So you started playing, and your family took you to clubs to hear music. How did that happen?
mean, it was a gradual thing. I mean, they got, like when I started when I was around 3, and it was, they were channeling my energy, trying to keep me from banging on everything around the house. And my grandparents and uncle had horses too, so my day was like going out to the barn and taking care of the horses in the morning. I'd go at, in the afternoon. I'd play along with the records by myself, or work around the house with my grandfather. And then at night we'd have to go back and bed the horses down, and we'd go back to the house, and then we'd sit around and listen to John Philip Sousa marches, and me and my uncle would play along. And this was when I was about 3, and it went on for a couple of years till actually I was around 5 or 6, and then we moved to my mom and dad got a house, and so my brother and I, mom and dad, moved to another house, not that far away, but it was a drive in the car. So and that's when my grandmother started taking my brother and I for tap dancing lessons, and me for drum lessons. My brother took trumpet, and and the longer, the more I stayed interested in drumming and music, the more they exposed me to. My uncle started playing different, buying different albums for me to listen to, like Art Blakey, Max Roach. He started introducing me to jazz, some Dixieland, Gene Krupa, and Buddy Rich. And then the longer I remained interested, the more the different things they exposed me to. And there was a club, in Rochester called the Ridgecrest Inn, and they brought all top jazz artists in: Dizzy Gillespie, Art Blakey, Max Roach, Oscar Peterson, Kay Winding, Charlie Ventura, Gene Krupa, Papa Joe Jones, Dakota Staten, Carmen McRae. Everybody. And you could sit, I would just sit about 4 or 5 feet away from the bandstand, on the side of where, not in front of the bandstand, but on the side, so I could watch the drummer and see what his feet were doing. And it was a great way to learn. These people were very inspirational artists that took a lot of care with kids, and they were really nice to me. And the other family that used to go was Chuck Mangione. His parents used to take him and Gap to hear the bands too, and we'd all sit in. It was a great time. And these guys, these bands, this was a circuit, so they'd come through town once or twice a year, and so you'd go back and see them when they revisited, and you could you get little relationships going with these people, and it was fantastic.
What are your thoughts on Max Roach in the pantheon of jazz drumming?
Yeah, he was definitely made his mark. Played with Clifford Brown. A musical, really musical drummer. Had his own sound. Yeah, someone I listened to and tried to emulate. Someone I enjoyed hearing, and I loved him with Clifford Brown.
Did you know Philly Joe?
I met him a couple of different times. I didn't really know him, but I sure love his playing.
Did you see him with the classic Miles Quintet?
I didn't see him with that. I saw him play at Birdland, and I can't remember it might have been. I'm not sure who it was with because I was just watching him. Yeah, so I saw him play at Birdland. His groove was his feel was fantastic, and I knew a guy that was a Philly Joe fanatic and a great drummer, Vinnie Ruggiero. Did you ever hear of Vinnie Ruggiero?
No, where's Vinny? Is he from upstate?
He's originally from Long Island. He's actually not with us any longer. He passed quite a few years ago. But I met him. He was friends with the Manjonis and played with one of Chuck's bands and played with Slide Hampton and oh, this guy as a singer, Lloyd Price. Played with Lloyd Price. Played with Lionel Hampton. Great groove player and really loved Philly Joe. He really paced himself after Philly Joe, but he also loved Tony and Elvin too. So yeah, Vinny was great, and Philly Joe, boy, I love him, man. You know, to this day, you know.
Yeah, Philly was a interesting fellow, good friend of Lenny Bruce, who was a big jazz fan. I saw Philly Joe. There was a band Damaronia around New York in the '80s that he played with Walter Davis Jr., some other folks. But that Miles Davis band in '58 with Red Garland, Paul Chambers, Philly Joe Jones, and John Coltrane, they created quite a sensation back then.
Yeah, they did. Well, all Miles's band did. You know what I mean? Like with Philly and with Wynton Kelly and Jimmy Cobb and Paul Chambers and then later with Tony and Ron and Herbie. I mean, you know, Miles. We would just wait for the new Miles albums to come out and listen to it. You know, we'd have friends come over and we know we'd buy it and we'd all sit around and listen to the whole thing over and over again. You know.
Yeah, I remember in the late '60s when the music started to move into a different direction and Phil did Kilimanjaro, and then In a Silent Way. That was like, wow, what is this? And then
Right.
everybody's wondering, what's Miles going to do next? And then Bitches Brew.
Yeah, he was amazing. Man. He was the guy to look. He was the guy. You look towards Miles to find out what the next thing was going to be.
Did you ever play with him?
No, I never did.
And did you see him with Wayne and Chick and Jack?
I saw them. I saw him at the Fillmore when he had that band, the Fillmore East, with Keith was there too. I think.
Well,
Jarrett.
yeah, that was that recording. I was there that Thursday night. It was Keith and Chick and Jack and Dave and Airto.
Right.
Unbelievable, man.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then I saw Miles at the Cellar Door one time when Chick was playing with him, and it was Jack and Dave Holland and Airto.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible stuff, man. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, well, that was you got to New York at a really exciting time, man. I mean, there was a lot going on. The studio scene, which you prospered from, but also all the changes in music. Now, when you came to New York, we were watching before a video from Birdland of the Count Basie Band. Just a few minutes here about big band drumming. You played with a band called White Elephant. Tell us about that.
Well, that was right after I got to New York, and Mike Maneri had been working on this project for a long time, because before I played with that band, I went to New York. I was in the Army at Fort Meade, Maryland, and I used to drive to New York on weekends. Tony Levin was my friend and in New York, and I'd go hang with him. And he was playing with this band. This band was eventually White Elephant, but when I first heard it at the top of the gate, it was called Red Eye, and and it was Michael Brecker, Randy Brecker, Ronnie Huber, Nick Holmes was singing, John Pearson was playing trombone, Nat Pavone was in the band. I mean, it was Tony Levin was playing, um, Mike Maneri. It was incredible. They had Annie Sutton was singing. Um, it was it was amazing. And then after I got to New York, that band was still, had been working on an album for years, and I finally was able to get on the album. Um, and it was with all my heroes, So Donald McDonald was another. He was playing drums also. There were two drummers
Mm.
in that. So yeah, it was great. I got a chance to meet all these great musicians, and guys that were working a lot in New York, and that was exciting because I wanted to be able to work in New York, and it's all about meeting people and getting people to hear you, and hopefully they'll like what they hear and call you back. Exciting times.
Yeah, those are great times, and people must have liked you because you started to work a lot, man.
I did. Well, I took everything any offers that came in, whether they paid or they didn't pay. I just took it all, and because it was so great there were so many great musicians in the city, and there were a lot of different venues, a lot of different, there were big band rehearsal places where, the bands really weren't working, but arrangers could, do arrangements and hear them played. And so, I did a bunch of that stuff. Um, and, eventually, calls started coming in that paid also. So, it paid off the work, even though I did it for nothing. The fact that I was meeting people and playing different kinds of music, it was great.
Now, talking about big band playing, I want to play something here from somebody who left us recently. It's our friend Duffy Jackson, who unfortunately passed recently. Steve, what do you think it takes to be a great big band drummer?
Well, I think it takes, you've got to do it. And I think the more that drummers do it, the more they figure out how to make it happen by doing less. It you know, and it's something that it's its own thing. The only way that I get comfortable playing and doing big band stuff is if I do it. It's just one of those things that you have to be in that zone to remember all the things that make it fun. But other than that, I don't really know. I know, like, you listen to guys that are great big band drummers. Listen to Sonny Payne.
Yeah.
Mel Lewis had a great feel. That guy Duffy
Jackson.
He sounded great. Don Lemon was a good big band drummer. Let's see, who else?
Maynard had some really good drummers. I remember, the first jazz record I ever got was Message from Birdland. Frankie Dunlop was a drummer on there. Then after he left, Rufus Speedy Jones was the drummer with the band.
Rufus Jones was a great big band drummer. Jake Hanna with Woody's band was great.
Yeah.
Buddy Rich is a great big band drummer. But he grew up playing that kind of stuff, So I think you have to listen to the guys that did it and did it, did it well. Earl Palmer was a, I didn't realize how many things that he had played on with big band stuff, even with Sinatra and with Nelson Riddle. Man, he played the hell out of that stuff. Very, very minimal kind of stuff, but the band was swung hard. And I think that's the goal. It's not about, it's just allowing the band to be the best that it can be and trying to make it feel good. The better you can make it feel, the more fun you're going to have, I think.
Yeah, so true, so true. Let's look at some video from one of your long-term collaborators. Hard to think of Chick in the past tense.
Yeah, it sure is.
It's his, pardon me, his music, his spirit. I'm having difficulty processing his passing.
Yeah, well, it was totally unexpected from my point of view. I had no idea he was sick. And, we had even spoke, a few months before he passed, and he was mentioning, other projects that he was thinking about doing together, so he was always planning something. He never stopped thinking, I'll tell you.
So I seem to remember you played in Return to Forever. The first incarnation was Airto and Flora and Joe Farrell. And then he formed, precursor to the other one. Didn't you play with him and Bill Connors?
Yeah, I did. I did. I did all that Hymn to the Seventh Galaxy music, and then I couldn't commit to being on the road. And I know Chick wanted to go out and tour with the people that did the album, so I had to, bow out, and that was a hard decision for me because it was great music. I knew the band was going to be big. But I just, I was in my first marriage and had a couple of young daughters. And I was starting to get work in the city where I could, make a living and not have to be far away from home. So I chose that. And thank God, after that, Chick did some other, music that he included me in, like Leprechaun and the Mad Hatter.
Friends.
Friends, three quartets.
Yeah.
So.
And then you had that band with that we just saw with Chick and Bob Berg and Eddie Gomez. You guys made some great music together.
That was a fun band. Yeah, Bob Berg was a monster.
Yeah.
And a lot of very enjoyable for me to hang out with him. Eddie Gomez is my old friend for years, so it was like a family,
Yeah. Now, in addition to playing with all these incredible people, you've also had the Gadd Gang. Let's look at some of that and come back and talk about it. This one features one of your collaborators, Richard T.
It's called Take the A Train.
So you played with Richard T. in the studios. You was in the Gadd Gang. Also, as a former resident of the Upper West Side of Manhattan, I used to go to McKell's and hear you guys with Stuff. That was an incredible band, man. What a groove that band had.
I love that band. Now, where was that video from that you just showed?
I found it on YouTube. There's no idea about where it's from.
I wonder where it's from. I never saw that. Yeah, but we played in Stuff. It was one of the most fun bands I've ever played in. It was such an honor for me to be accepted by Richard and Gordon Edwards, Cornell Dupree, and Eric Gale. I mean, these guys, I went to New York in the early 70s, and these guys were, legends in terms of recording musicians and who they played with and how good the grooves were. I mean, they wrote the book, and I learned so much from those guys, and just incredible amounts of fun. And in that club, McKell's, where there wasn't really a PA, we were playing mostly acoustically. The guitar and the bass had amps, but I think the keyboard and drums were just acoustic. And boy, I mean, some of the grooves were so intense, and the magic was that as good as when it really felt great on the bandstand, we'd look out and it seemed like the audience was feeling the same thing that we were feeling, and to share that kind of energy and joy was spiritual, and it wasn't like we were doing that for the money, because everybody was working in the studio all day, so that we just went up there to play and have some fun with people that we'd like to play with.
Well, as somebody who was in the audience at McKell's a number of times there, I can tell you that it was a spiritual experience. And when the music is really happening, when the musicians are playing together in the zone, there's nothing like that, man.
I
Nothing.
agree.
Totally.
I agree.
So we just got a minute here before you're back to your usual life. you've got a new recording out here, the Gadd Gang live at Steve Gadd Band live at the Blue Note in Tokyo.
Right.
Is this your working group now with David Spinoza, Jimmy Johnson, Kevin Hayes, and Walt Fowler?
Well, that was, I mean, actually, the Mike Landau is a guitar player that plays in the band also. And this particular tour, Mike wasn't, he had something that he had to do, so he couldn't do it. And I got my old friend David Spinoza to play. And we did a couple of David songs, and we found this live recording of the Blue Note Tokyo and remixed it. And I had a lot of fun doing that, you know. It was, but that was the, you know, I'm not sure what's going to happen now when the band goes back out. I really haven't spoken to a lot of the guys to see where they're at with traveling, and so, but I'd like it to be, you know, that would be a great combination of people to be with, that or with Mike Landau. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. And you mentioned to me the other day you've got some kind of educational project. What is it, a book or a tape? What is that?
I did a book of, I started practicing on a table with, I got these sticks with rubber tips that I got them laying all over the house and can play on anything. So, and I started, you know, like I was a kid banging on everything, and started coming up with some patterns that I thought were interesting, and started writing them down. And, you know, I got excited to share these things with people, because they're, you know, they're things that I never thought of before, and they're interesting and fun. So I've got a book that's going to be coming out probably in 6 weeks. It's at the printers now.
And what's it called?
It's called Gaddaments.
Gaddaments.
Gaddaments. Steve Gadd Gaddaments.
All right. Well, we'll have to look for that. Steve, thanks so much for spending an hour with us and looking at your music. And as a longtime fan of yours, great to meet you and hang out for a minute. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you, Brett. Nice to meet you too.